Hi, I'm Liz from Caravan Guard Insurance. Going off-grid with a caravan is an affordable method of having a great holiday away from the hustle and bustle of a large campsite. There are lots of small campsites or farm stays that might offer little in the way of facilities and electric hookup, but are tucked away in a beautiful rural location with great views or quirky amenities, and these are becoming extremely popular. But what do we mean when we talk about caravanning off-grid, and what are the things and equipment you need to consider? In this video, we're joined by experienced caravanner Dan Trudgian, who enjoys taking his tourer to these off-grid locations, and we start by asking, what is off-grid caravanning?
So going off-grid in a caravan is unlike going off-grid in a motorhome. We can only park up in approved locations, so certificated sites, maybe some farm stops, but generally they're all campsites. Now on a campsite, typically what you'll find is you'll get all your normal amenities, you'll get your rubbish, you'll get your fresh water, waste area and an Elson point for emptying the loo, but you just won't have electric hookup. So in the respect of going off-grid in a caravan, what we're talking about is not having hookup to mains electricity, but having everything else and being reliant on your own onboard facilities. So there are numerous benefits of going off-grid with a caravan. I mean, first of all, the thing's already set up ready for it. If you've got a solar panel and you've got your onboard facilities like your shower, your loo, you can use those already. So there's no reason not to use them. The benefits for me personally, well, I find it really settles my mental health. It gets you away from the great hustle and bustle of everyday life, and it takes you to rural locations where typically a commercial site would never get planning permission. So small, compact, rural campsites are ideal. And that is the main benefit for us for going off-grid in a caravan. So I mentioned before that we have two fuel sources, our 12-volt battery and our gas. Now let's just focus on gas for a minute. That's going to provide us with our hot water, it's going to provide heating and also cooking as well. But the other thing that gas will be used for is providing cooling in our fridge. Now most caravans today have three settings. You can have mains hookup, gas and obviously 12 volt when we're hooked up to our tow vehicle. And using our fridge on gas will provide a lot of cooling. It's a lot more energy efficient, by the way, by using gas on our fridge. It means that we can provide a lot more cooling with not having the temperature so cold on our fridge. The thing though is it will burn through gas quite quickly. Now, in the past, we've been away off grid for about 10, 12 days, and the only thing that we ran out of, not power, the only thing we ran out of was gas. So we had to replenish our gas, and that's quite straightforward really. Just uncouple the gas bottle, head over to a local dealer and buy a new gas bottle and install it. Some caravans do have refillable gas bottles, you can buy those as well, but we don't. We just use a standard Calo gas bottle that we just go and replenish at a garage or a camping dealership. So I just mentioned that we ran out of gas early on in our off-gridding days, and it was halfway through the holiday, and what we found is that we had no way of making any hot food, and we typically had no way of boiling the kettle for a cup of tea in the morning. From there, we actually purchased a small disposable gas canister and a small camping stove that we use religiously as a backup. If we ever run out of gas, we have the facilities and the methods to make a cup of tea if we need one, and more importantly, make some food for the evening. So we talked about gas, and that was our adventures and that was our experiences. Now the other thing, which is perhaps the biggest talking point and the biggest issue which most people seem to have as a blocker, is the leisure battery and the fear of running out of power, because everything in the caravan uses 12 volts in some way or form. So there's a couple of things that we can do. Before we set off, let's make sure that the battery is in good condition and it's fully charged. The second thing is, if you do have solar panel, make sure your panel is clean, make sure it's clear, because surprisingly just dust and dirt on the corners of the solar panel can diminish the charging capacity of that panel quite heavily. So make sure it's nice and clean to potentially get as much power out of the panel into the battery as we possibly can. And the other thing is, before we head off, there's just a couple of power options that we should pack into the caravan. Little battery chargers which fit onto your phone, or have power banks which have USB sockets on them. They're great for charging things up like phones, tablets, etc., which can take quite a lot of charge out of the battery in one way, shape or the other. Another thing that we pack is a power station. Now these can be quite big, they're quite heavy, but they're fantastic for providing short bursts of 230 mains voltage into the caravan if you absolutely need it. So if you do find yourself in the event that the battery is going flat, you can plug one of these in and supply some charge to the battery using the onboard charger. So there's a couple of things that can go wrong when we're going off-grid in the van. Typically just running out of power. That's either gas or 12 volts. Now, if we run out of gas, well, that's really straightforward. Just take your bottle and get a new one. It's quite simple. We've already covered what we do in the event of we do run out of gas. If you run out of 12 volt power, it's a little bit more problematic, but there are a couple of things that we can do. We can plug our car into the towing electrics, start the car, and that will provide some power. Now, there's a caveat to that. It depends how your tow bar is wired up. Some cars may not support that, but certainly ours will provide power to the leisure battery whilst we are towing. Another option is that some campsites will provide 12 volt charging facilities where you can take your battery over to the landowner and they'll put it on charge for you, and that will provide you some charge to get you through the rest of your holiday. And it's for that reason we do carry a power station and also a leisure battery charger. We plug it onto the leisure battery, plug it into the station, and then we go, we've recharged our battery. Now, we have run out of power once before. I left the awning light on overnight, and for that reason I did need to recharge the battery on one holiday, so I just left it going overnight, and by the morning we were fine. So some of the things that we pack and buy for going caravanning off-grid is really just things to maintain some bodily warmth. At night, when we turn the heating off and the hot water off, we want to cuddle up under blankets. My wife also takes a fluffy hoodie with her as well, but we also pack things like slippers just to keep your feet warm, because it's surprising how cold the floor of a caravan can get when you don't have anything to warm you up with. We typically pack extra jumpers, hoodies, that sort of things, and just layering up clothing just in case it does get a bit fresh. So because we're going off-grid in a rural location, there's just a couple of things to be aware of, and it's just common sense really. First of all, make sure you pack your levelling kit, because some sites can be quite uneven. Certainly if you're in a farm, the fields can be a little bit up and down. The second thing to make sure you take, because there'll be no lighting and no street lighting, is make sure you pack a head torch or some way of illuminating the ground in front of you if you need to go out and do the services. Now, as we're talking about the services, make sure you also take some eco-friendly green chemicals for the toilet, because again, we're in rural locations. Sometimes they have soakaways, sometimes they have septic tanks. So make sure we have chemicals and products which are usable, but also work well with the facilities that the campsite does provide. Make sure that we pack our antihistamines with us, because if, like me, you suffer from allergies and the pollen, it's not very pleasant to sneeze away all through the day. So make sure you pack some antihistamines. Make sure that you can pack some sunscreen. If you've noticed, I'm pretty sunburnt here today because I didn't pack my sunscreen. So make sure you've got that with you as well, enough for you and the family. Insect repellent, just in case you are in a location where there's a lot of flies, a lot of bugs, etc. And finally, if you are taking any animals with you, and also maybe even for yourselves, do consider taking a tick removal tool as well, because ticks are rife at this time of year, and certainly in long grass they can be anywhere. And I will just mention there are a few things you can take out of your caravan because you won't need them. Your mains powered kettle, maybe a hairdryer, maybe a hair straightener, anything that plugs into the main, including maybe the vacuum. You just won't need them, so take them out of the caravan, save some space, save some weight. Now, if you're buying equipment for your caravan and you're kitting out for seasons ahead, there's just a couple of things that I would give you as advice. First of all, buy devices which are powered by 12 volts. So buy a television which could be powered by 12 volts, and also think about a sound bar which can also be recharged or indeed works off of 12 volts. Now, the reason I mention that is that the radio inside a caravan is essentially a car radio, and they do pull a lot of power. Now, if you use something like a sound bar which can plug into your TV or even go outside with you wherever you are, some of them are rechargeable, some of them are 12 volts, but they do not pull as much power as a car radio. So you can take the music or the sounds or the archers wherever you are in and around the caravan, and it's a great way for providing entertainment without pulling any big amounts of power. So in the kitchen, there's just a couple of things that you should consider changing out. First of all, don't bother taking a mains power kettle. You'll be sat there for a life and day trying to boil the kettle. Instead, take a stovetop kettle, which works off of a gas hob. When it comes to packing, we pack freezer blocks. We freeze them at home, and then we pack all our fridge items with those and make sure that whilst we're in transit, everything is kept cold. But here's another top tip. We also pre-pack our dishes at home as well. Things like a lasagna, for instance. We make that up at home in a foil pack that we can then reheat and cook in the oven. And it means that obviously you've then got a nice meal for the first night you're there, but also you've got no washing up. And finally, the last thing I would suggest we pack is just a disposable gas canister, which we can use on our emergency cooker, just in case we need to make a cup of tea whilst we have no gas in the caravan. So if you're still unsure about going off-grid in your caravan and you're not sure you're quite there yet, maybe you're fearful that the caravan can't quite do it, maybe you have got an anxiety that you can't do it, well, here's an idea. Book onto a campsite that provides no electric pitches. Now you can still use the on-site facilities, so you've got access to the shower block, you've got access to the on-site loos, you've got access to anything they provide on-site, but you just won't be connected to the electricity hookup point. That means you've got the best of both worlds. You're off-grid, but you're on a campsite and you can use any of the amenities. If you do run out of power, well, the campsite will be there to help you. Maybe they can shift you onto another pitch, but it will provide you some confidence and also prove to you that you do have the capabilities to go off-grid. And hopefully that will be the start of your off-gridding adventures. If you are absolutely still unsure, how about this as an idea? Just consider the amount of money that you will save if you go off-grid. Now, we have been away for an entire week. That was 7 nights and we spent less than £100 whilst we were off-grid. Sure, we used all our onboard facilities, we did use gas, we did use a lot of things whilst we were away, but our campsite fees were way down. If you compare that to a commercial site just down the road, they're going to be charging 2 or 3 times the amount of money for exactly the same location. So consider the cash that you will save if you do go off-grid in your caravan. So here are my top tips for caravanning off-grid. Now, there is a phenomenon known as battery anxiety for any newcomer or any newbie that's gone off-grid, constantly checking the voltage on the panel in the caravan. Do that, beware of the battery power, and that will let you know whether you're going to run out of power anytime soon. I typically tested the battery power every couple of hours when we first started going off-grid. Nowadays, I check it once a day. There are devices in and around the caravan which will start to fall apart and break and not work properly if the battery power is going. Lights flicker, LED lights, they'll start to flicker. TVs will shut off because the battery is too low. Onboard radio, that will also shut off because the battery is too low. So there are little indications around the caravan that things are not going well. So just be mindful, check it once or twice a day and you won't have any issues. Now, the modern caravans, they've got beautiful lighting in them. They've got ambient backlit lighting in every panel and every locker, as you can see around the caravan. The top tip here is to switch all of that off. Use book lights, use the reading lights in the corners, use them sparingly because that will preserve a lot of power. Because typically when you're using lights, it's at night and there's no way any solar panel can get into your leisure battery. So just conserve the lighting, set things on low, and also consider using timers on your heating and your hot water. You don't need hot water through the middle of the night, so conserve that by switching it off low or even turning it down entirely. It'll preserve some gas in your gas bottle. And finally, don't forget that things like your microwave and your 230-volt sockets, well, they just won't work because you're not hooked up to any electric hookup on your campsite. Now, I've talked about being frugal with your 12-volt supply at night. There's also things that we can be frugal here with the gas as well, and that is to not shower as often, maybe conserve the power by turning the hot water off. If you do need hot water for things like washing up, you don't need to heat the boiler up, just boil a kettle and use that instead. That will save a lot of power and also provides you a quicker hot water as well. Another top tip, and this is from experience, is when you're ready to go to bed, just do a walk around of the caravan, make sure that everything is switched off. Make sure all the lights are off, make sure your heating and hot water, they're off as well, because that will conserve some power. But most importantly, from bitter experience, make sure your awning light is switched off as well. Because A, you're going to be polluting the area around you with bright white light, but also it's going to be running the battery down as well. So just do a walk around at the end of the evening, make sure that everything is switched off.
So there you go, some great tips and considerations for off-grid caravanning. Remember, there are lots of options for taking your tourer off-grid, and for many, their caravans are already equipped for not being hooked up. A huge thank you to Dan, and for more caravanning hints and tips, why not head on over to the Caravan Guard website. Please like and share this video, and if you have any other tips for taking your caravan off-grid, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Take care.